Hello, my name is Anatoly Motkin. I am president of StrategEast, and just a couple of words about what StrategEast is. StrategEast is an ecosystem enabler that works in Eurasian region. And our mission is to assist those countries of the Eurasian region to develop digital ecosystem and IT industry ecosystem in the region. And in different countries, the level of digital proficiency and level of IT industry was quite different. And in those countries, we tried to do our best to accomplish actually the missing components. In some countries it was legislation, in some countries it was digital expertise, in some countries it was a startups pipeline. But the main idea was, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, to keep the young people there and to develop opportunities for youngsters to implement their own ideas and actually and to prevent the brain drain. Now, the advantage of the region is that one of the maybe several positive things on post-Soviet legacy was the high level of fundamental studies. It means high level of physics, high level of chemistry, math. So we had only to bring the global expertise and global experience in global companies to work in the region. And it's true that we've been asked by several of those countries to work for each country separately, but our conclusion at the end was that working in the region and promoting the region as one piece would be much more productive. And one of the countries where StrategEast succeeded to set up the IT industry from the scratch was Republic of Georgia. Republic of Georgia, where just 3 years ago there was not a single international IT company that was exporting software from Georgia. So we started working systematically, and we decided to set up all the necessary components. The component of international IT companies to soft land in Georgia, to train local talent, and to hire them in place. The second component was to attract mission-driven accelerators from Silicon Valley who would start developing the pipeline of startups in Georgia. Another component was attracting international academic institutions like Berkeley to Georgia to create a collaboration between Georgian universities and global universities. And also setting up many other components like IT Association of Georgia. Just to make a long story short, we started at January 2020, February, just before the pandemic outbreak, with training of 40 students from Georgia by international IT company. With one precondition: we cover the tuition fee of those trainings, but you have to hire those people in place without relocation. And then we started working with the government of Georgia, developing a special tax regime and legislative regime for those who work for international companies. And we succeeded to reduce the income tax for those employees from 20 to 5%. Then we started attracting the companies themselves and saying, look, Georgia, you have now good environment to develop the idea, to launch your operation there. As a result, just in 2.5 years, we have more than 100 international IT companies operating in Georgia. It increased the income of the IT industry in Georgia from zero to literally over $300 million a year, this year. Another result is that the first ever startup in Georgia was acquired for $50 million, and another one took the first place in Web Summit in Lisbon last year, the NEO by Entrepreneurial. So it just demonstrates that if you work systematically, you could achieve significant results. But it was not sufficient just to bring the companies to Georgia itself. It was important to promote Georgia as a trusted IT destination, as a trusted provider of digital services to global companies. And that's something that we also have done in the United States, in European Union, in UK. And then we also attracted international companies who are already based in the region, making regional hubs, not only country-wide hubs. So, talking about the post-Soviet or Eurasian space that I just demonstrated on the previous slide, this region became a trusted supplier of digital services to American and European companies, and moreover, the IT industry or IT skills consist of two components: the technical skills and the delivery skills. The technical skills you could obtain just from being trained even online. The delivery skills, your ability of your company to work with international customers, you could obtain only from working within international IT companies. That's why it's so important to have these big companies with boots on the ground in the region or in your country. And also this kind of collaboration between the tech companies and the universities, that's actually the key. As an example, we've just started our partnership with Oracle Academy in Eurasia, where we're starting training professors in local universities to upskill their knowledge and proficiency to what actually the industry needs. And what we see the opportunity for Bahrain and for the Gulf in general is actually to look for synergy between the Gulf and the countries of Central Asia and Caucasus, who actually are based in the same time zone. You can see it's basically the same time zone. The flight time is about 4 hours, many times it's even less. But what we have and what are the conditions for this synergy? You have global level of digital expertise and experience in Central Asia and Caucasus, who are the same time zone, but they provide digital services already for UBS Bank, Novartis, Boeing, Airbus, Microsoft, Google, and it's about $1 billion. Just imagine that in Belarus, at the end of 2021, 60,000 IT specialists generated $3 billion of income just from digital experts. That's something that is important and possible to replicate here in the Gulf. But I think that it's also important for the Gulf, and I really see that many countries are represented here, and it's not only Bahrain. It's important to behave as a hub. And it's true that there could be many hubs in one region, but to behave as a region would be much more beneficial for all. So if we look on this region, and we think that we have 10,000 startups, over 10,000 startups accelerated in Eurasian region, and we have over 500 VC funds in the Gulf, I think it's a good opportunity for synergy. It's not necessarily some actors or funds from Silicon Valley should come in, but many of those startups become global successful companies who actually multiply the investments 10, 20 times. Another one is actually trying to attract global tech companies with offices and vast presence in the region, in the Eurasian region, to the Gulf. Once they soft land here, you would be able to actually create more jobs in Bahrain, in Saudi, in all other countries who might be interested. And then these countries would start being digital services providers. But it would be much cheaper than getting those companies from Silicon Valley. So if I look on them, I could say that the same qualities that you could get from Silicon Valley, 10 times cheaper, but much better than many times the digital services are obtained here in the region. So getting this region together, the Central Asia Caucasus and the Gulf states, could create a third digital hub along with what we see in Silicon Valley and along with what we see in China. Again, we started working in the Gulf states because we are big believers that actually with business entrepreneurial aspirations here and with actually hunger for knowledge, I think this is the next digital destination and next digital hub. So we started trying to connect the dots. We started working with Moonshot in Saudi Arabia, and we brought 15 startups to Saudi from Eurasian countries. And I should say that in BBAN, March this year, all of them found partners, investors, customers The same we started doing with explaining to the companies in the region of Central Asia and Caucasus how they could soft land in the Gulf. So we held a webinar with one of the consultancy firms in Saudi Arabia. What are the benefits for international IT companies once they soft land in Saudi? And by the way, the case with Vivan in Saudi led us to even deepen the partnership with them. And next year, we're about to bring 50 startups to Saudi because they see clear interest in working together with those startups. One of them was a halal finance startup from Uzbekistan. Some others were e-commerce from Kazakhstan. And all these were perceived as good opportunities for investment from Saudi. So another cases of what we do. So as an attempt to meet the people who are responsible for IT development in Central Asia, Caucasus, and people in the Gulf, next week we bring the most senior level of decision making in the region of Caucasus and Central Asia to Dubai, to GIDEX event to meet between the Digital Chamber of Commerce and other and Prime Minister's Office and the IT Park of Sharjah, with heads of IT parks, deputy ministers, and ministers from the Central Asian Caucasus. In Qatar, we also have a planned event on February next year to matchmake between the traditional sector there and digital service providers from the Central Asian Caucasus. In Oman, we have held boot camps for local startups together with the Madari company there, and we also communicate with the Ministry of Transportation and Communication how we could assist to develop the IT scene and IT sector in Oman. So what actually the opportunities for Bahrain specifically? I think that if we work systematically, or you work systematically, we all work systematically as we've done in Georgia, I clearly see how we could have in 5 years, dozens of international big digital companies, not vendors who sell you the products,